It's time to spin round the rim. This is Desert Planet Discs. Star Wars music in a single file. Here are your hosts, Carl Bayliss and Greig Robertson.
Welcome to the second edition of Desert Planet Discs. Yeah, so good, they let us do it again. So, thank you again to everybody that's listened and sent in comments from the first episode. Really appreciate your feedback. Please keep it coming in. news@fantatracks.com. I am joined again, as ever, by my faithful co-host, co-pilot on this journey, Mr. Greig Robertson, a.k.a. Darth Elvis. How's it going?
All good, sir. Hot dang, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be back after the first show. Thanks very much for listening.
So, opening up, as you will have maybe twigged, we're kicking off the show with a different rendition of the main theme from Star Wars. We had the wonderful jazz trumpet sounds of Mr. Maynard Ferguson from way back in 1977. Greg, you can tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so interestingly, this is our first Canadian artist of the show this week.
This is the theme, possibly.
This is the first track taken from his album New Vintage, which came out in 1977 on good old Columbia Records, featuring the covers. Got a trumpet in an ice bucket, and the back cover, a trumpet blowing out a cork. So,
there you go.
Some quality artwork there. I like the title New Vintage. Makes me think of the New Vintage in the actual toy collecting world.
Yes.
Would that be like Muscle Luke and Muscle Han, or were we talking more of a Phantom Menace era collecting?
Yeah.
What would be New Vintage?
New Vintage,
I'd probably go with the old green kind of Power of the Force.
Yeah.
Muscle Luke.
Does it indeed refer to the vintage collection that's now being pushed out by Hasbro?
That's a good point.
Vintage
that leads quite well into Triple Force Friday.
Triple Force Friday, which was just a few weeks ago. What was your experience like for Triple Force Friday, Greg?
It was miserable. I took a few hours off work to go to my local Disney store first of all, which I thought was probably the best chance of finding some new Hasbro magic, and was greeted by just like your Disney multi-pack stationery kind of characters for £25, a couple of kids' costumes, and a Dio Teddy. And I think that was pretty much it. There was no Hasbro on the shelf whatsoever. I kind of expected maybe some of their Elite Series die-cast toys, nothing there either. Yeah. And then from there I charged off to a place called Toy Town, I think it's called, in Aberdeen. The lady looked at me like I was crazy, never heard of it. What are you talking about? And then I phoned Smith's Toys, and I think they'd only at that point got Lego in. So yeah, I didn't get anything. The first Force Friday stock I got was the following week when I was in Edinburgh for work, and I ran to Forbidden Planet on my lunch before I jumped on the train home, and I managed to get some Funko Pops from The Mandalorian. And today, in fact, my first Black Series figure appeared through the post, the Mandalorian figure. So
that is a really nice looking figure.
It's a beauty. So what about yourself? How did you get on?
Yeah, similar. I was at a collecting event, Echo Base Live in Redditch on the Saturday. So there were a few traders there that had got some of the new waves of Black Series figures and some of the vintage collection as well. So our old friends, ID Toys, In Demand Toys, and Geeky Nerd Toys as well, had got stock of the Premier Edition White Box Black Series, which seems like a bit of a juxtaposition for me, and some of the vintage collection stuff as well. I know a couple of guys who picked up a nice vintage collection Red 5 X-Wing, which very, very, very nice looking piece, but yes, a little on the expensive side.
Agreed. Yeah, a little too pricey for me.
Yeah, apart from that, really. No, I didn't really pick up a lot. The event, as I say, was geared up for a lot of collectors, but I'm focusing in on certain elements at the moment. So I do have somewhere in the country at the moment, somebody has me a nice Sith Trooper in the white box. But other than that, that's about the extent. I do like the look of the Disney toy box Sith Trooper as well. That looks really good. But again, my local Disney store seems to be devoid of stock of that.
Mind you, I was in there today, having a look, hoping to pick up some of the toy boxes, and nothing at all.
Obviously, Triple Force Friday is all about getting the first wave of toys out for Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, and of course the Rise of Skywalker. All we know at the moment is there seems to be a lurking presence of a certain Sheev Palpatine. And on that note, what better way to lead into our second song? And I feel that it's only right that you introduce this one, Greg.
Taken from the album 4 by Darth Elvis and the Imperials, this is Sheev Palpatine.
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
Where he began, I can't begin to know it, but then I know he's growing strong. He was a Sith, the Sith became the Emperor. Who'd have believed he'd come along? Unlimited power, reaching out, force lightning me, force lightning you. Sheev Palpatine, the Empire never seems so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would. Oh, no. Dark Lord to your right, now you don't seem so lonely. Follow the rule of only two. And when I heard, hurting runs off my shoulders. How can I hurt when holding you? Vader, Darth Vader, reaching out, lifting me and dropping you. Sheev Palpatine, the Empire never seems so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would. Oh, no. You will not be turned, you will be destroyed. Sheev Palpatine, the Empire never seems so good. Sheev Palpatine, I believe they never would. Oh, Sheev Palpatine, the Empire never seems so good.
You will find that it is you who are mistaken about a great many things.
My co-host Darth Elvis there with Sheev Palpatine from the album 4, available in all good internets.
Available to buy and download on Bandcamp.
Yes,
Good old Bandcamp.
yes. So please do support Greg. He has children to feed. the Star Wars collecting hobby to feed. So obviously,
and a puppy called Poe.
Yes, obviously, all album sales go to the needy and the good. Again, spoke in episode 1 a little bit about your sort of creative process. How did that track come about?
This one, again, it was very similar to how Tell That the Kanja Club came about. It just kind of, at rehearsal one day, we're just playing one of our songs, and the lyric came into my head. I have to say, Sweet Caroline was a song that I used to sing a lot at karaoke bars when I had a few drinks in me. A real guilty pleasure of mine. So it's a song I was always keen to cover, and it's a song that Elvis covered as well, so it seemed quite fitting. And then when the lyric idea just came into my head, I was like, it's got to be done. I could just imagine the audience singing along to this one, and I wasn't wrong. Good old fan favourite as well. So
was that on the Celebration EP as well from 2016?
It was, I think. Yeah. I seem to remember. I think it was C3PO, Kanja Club, and this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole EP was just on repeat for the whole of Celebration, went for sort of 3 days, so I left grinning like an idiot.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
So, from one Celebration, our earlier Canadian influence, to another Canadian influence, many of you in the Star Wars community will be aware of Din Skysinger and his band F105. And Greg and I were fortunate enough to be able to catch up with Din and have a chat to him about his band F105, what he's been up to over the last sort of 12 months or so since the launch of the album, and what his plans for the future are. We'll start by listening to a track from the debut album by F105, and then our first ever guest.
With you on the shift and sense
Okay, so that was Desert Planet there by F105. And joining us on the line now is our debut guest on Desert Planet Discs. Very special welcome to Din from F105. Hey there, Din. How's it going?
Hey guys, great to be here. I gotta say that's a really fitting way to debut. It's 1 year anniversary of the album, and Desert Planet on Desert Planet Discs seems to be the most fitting thing. And it's like you were saying before we started here, it's 1 year and about a day or two since we played in Stourbridge together.
Yes, very much fun. And we'll potentially be, I think we're playing a track from recorded live on the night there a bit later on, so stick around for that, people. So F105, as you say, the album's been out a year now. How's the the whole process of getting a new project like F105 off the ground, quite literally, and the ensuing now world tour? How's that all gone for you?
I think this is my happiest, most fulfilling year of music ever in my life. It was hard to start a new project after 6 albums with the Souls, my former project.
Yeah.
And having the kind of breakthrough it had in the RFR community and fandom in general, because that would reach such a huge audience. And then sort of to turn around right away and decide, like, when people just started to know of me, I was like, okay, I have a new project. But for me, it was something that I started in 2001, and I had a sound in my head, and we didn't get there till our final album, which was Sand in the Sun. And then once we got there, I realized that project ran its course, and I really needed a fresh start and a new creative challenge. I don't think any album I've ever done is similar to the last. But yeah, I think it was a big hurdle just to get people associating F105 with me. And I think now, after a year and having done my first world tour, like it was 17 shows, 5 countries, 2 continents, I think just getting around that much and playing in Chicago, really, I think everyone thinks of my stuff as F105 now, not the Souls. So I think that's a pretty good year.
Yes,
absolutely.
So job done. And Greig was obviously similar thing, obviously really well known in the UK, but obviously hopped over to Chicago for Celebration, and hopefully start to reap the rewards of that now, Greig.
Yeah, this is it. I guess the timing. My band unfortunately is kind of broken up. I'm going solo. It is what it is. But yeah, making a name for myself. With a different. Well, I say a different name, less of a name. Dropping the Andy Imperials and just continuing as Darth Elvis. But hey ho. Talking about Chicago, then how was performing at Celebration for you? You did a few different pieces when you were there.
Well, I have to say I've been there, Greg, and I think crisis is always opportunity, So
Yeah.
I think if you keep pushing, you may be on to something a lot more fun and better. That's what I found with F105. This really took off in a way that the Souls never had, in terms of just being really free to move around. I mean, there's no gigs anymore around the world where you really can afford to take your band that can consistently sort of keep you on tour. You may get 1 or 2, but that's why a lot of artists are solo now, because it's so much more easier to afford to take yourself. With because everyone has a Spotify playlist. They don't have to hire a band. So really, the economy is just so much easier if you're traveling solo. And with Chicago, that brings me to Chicago, which was, I debuted a song that was tentatively called Song for Celebration at the Skywalking Through Neverland podcast stage show. And it's now called We the Force, which is sort of a pun on, I don't know if you're basketball fans, but the Raptors who won the championship, it's We the North. Okay. And my friend from Order 416 in Toronto, he came up with that title for just the catchphrase. But yeah, I asked him if we could use it as a song title. But anyway, I'm on a big tributary now. At the Skywalking show, that would have been maybe my 2nd or 3rd performance with Chris Mott on percussion.
Yeah.
Good lad.
And he's great. And I mean, there's so many great musicians everywhere who I feel can lay down the groove. And if you're a frontman and a performer, if my concept for F105 was that I have played maybe up to 1,000 shows and you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of open mics or open stages with different musicians. I got to this point of being completely confident that my delivery was always going to be on. Like every time, like that I don't know, that happened maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, where I figured out how to just always be on. And then if musicians are decent, then they really just have to hold the groove, and you could turn that into a good show. And so my concept for F105 is, because it's too expensive to bring the whole band around all the time, just F105 is more of a concept project where I do have a band here, but if they can't tour with me, I'll just play with whoever is in the city I'm in, you know, and the show will have its own magic. And I've gotten, you know, confident enough to trust musicians too, that even if they do something that's kind of different or an interpretation of what's on the album, I can go with that and make it work. And sort of that's part of the magic of every night. It might be slightly different. For someone with OCD about all the details of my albums, like, I make my production and bands crazy with my attention to like detail and how we're going to challenge ourselves to come up with new things, and to be so controlling about that, but then to go on the now I've found this new freedom with F105, which is like, wow, what I thought was my weakness, which is a strength too, but being controlling, I've had to give up control, and I found that opened up these wonderful shows, like the show with Carl on percussion in Stourbridge, and it was a decent turnout at that event too. So, you know, thanks to Fantha for helping me line up that gig. That was, you know, there was people there, and that was one of the best shows of the whole tour. Like I loved that. Your beat was just perfect for every song, and there's something about walking the high wire live, which is even more of a high wire when you're playing with people you've never even rehearsed with before, like with Carl. And it's like, okay, we were on the high wire, we didn't fall off, and that kind of makes the show a little more exciting for me.
Yeah. Teetering on the brink, but never quite falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So giving up that control has been really tough for me, but I guess that's kind of appropriate for, you know, a band that's a project that's taken its symbol as a jet. There's something just free about letting go.
Star Wars connection with your music, where did that start? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing you've been a Star Wars fan your whole life, like the two of us. And what was the first sort of Star Wars song you wrote, and how has that developed with you as you've, you know, gone on with the band at F105? And
well, I've been a fan since I saw videotapes of Star Wars before Jedi came out and Empire, and then I remember seeing Jedi in the theater. So since then, I've been studying like all of us. You know, you're studying everything you could learn about Star Wars, and that included eventually getting down to storytelling and Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey and the spirituality. Like, that's something that doesn't get focused on enough. People focus on the 12 to 16, depending which notes you're looking at, steps of the hero's journey. But when you read Joseph Campbell's books, I think they're a lot. He's more like a priest or something. Like, he goes on about spiritual stuff more than the actual system that everyone focuses on, his hero journey system. And so being someone that was really into spirituality, I started to see, Joseph Campbell's really on about the same stuff I'm interested. And then I got, you know, so obsessed with that with no thought of going, I'm gonna add this to my lyrics. I don't know why it took, you know, 5, 6, maybe 10 years to come to that idea when RFR asked me to write a jingle for them, and I arrogantly sort of said, I don't want to write you a jingle, I want to make you a piece of art, but I don't know what that is until it hits me. So it was and I thought, I must have sounded like an idiot. This really popular podcast gives me a break, and I kind of I had to be true to myself. I'm like, I can't just sit down and go, here's an RFR melody. Like, I knew something had to hit me, and a year later I was like, why don't I just write a hero's journey about that podcast, like make it feel like Star Wars, make their story of starting their own thing into here, like take those steps, take the spirituality even, and try to put it into 2 verses and a chorus and a rap, the only time I've ever rapped in a song. And but also with the intent of writing it so that it could be listened to by people who know nothing about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I like the goal was write something that people like those people would just relate to universally. Like if the hero's journey works, let's see if it works for people. Yeah. Almost like George, but in a much more humble way. Like not making a big movie, just making a little indie album. But just that same experiment. Do these things still touch people? Like maybe this is the thing that I can do in songwriting, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't. And then I guess it worked. It ended up it's still on the radio every day on some Sirius XM radio and station in Toronto. Then my hope with writing that song with the hero's journey was that it would be useful to people to listen to, that it would work, like actually function in people's lives, in whatever audience we have in fandom, that it would inspire people to get on their hero's journey, follow their bliss, and do their creative thing in fandom.
Yeah, spookily, I hold my hand up and say I am one of those people that was inspired. As we discussed when we met a year ago, hearing your RFR song inspired me to get in touch with Mark and do some jingles for the podcast he was doing at the time, which then led me to being invited into contributing to Panther Tracks, and it's been an amazing ride so far. Long may it continue. And inadvertently, links I made just coming up with these little jingle ideas, and I made that connection. So yeah, it as you say, it is that sort of inspiring power of music.
I mean, that's when you told me that in Stourbridge. I was already, pretty high from the touring in general, but like kind of otherworldly Europe to a Canadian, because our culture here is only a few hundred years old, so we don't get like 1,000, 2,000-year-old magical castles and stuff like that to see. So I was really buzzing from my start at like Notre Dame in Paris all the way to there, but and further. But when you told me that, I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. That's a cool experiment. Yeah. That actually, I can't imagine like a more fulfilling compliment to get, from someone that that art. Because ultimately, I think that was my secret to figuring out how to have good shows, other than putting in the 10,000 hours or the 10 years and getting good, was that, oh, wow, okay, what I'm doing here is just functioning to give people a good time. I don't care if people are listening to me. If people want to talk in a background, then it's like, okay, fine, I'm just here to be background so that you have a good night with your friend. It's like, I'm just here for one night for an hour or 20 minutes or 2 hours or 3, whatever the show is. We do 3-hour shows in Toronto. I'm here. Really, the only way to have a good show is to function for other people. Like, this is how you have a good night. Yeah. So I think the same philosophy maybe I started to put into songs with that song. Like, this is a pretty selfish, kind of self-focused, a lot of attention on me kind of thing, which sometimes makes me uncomfortable. But if it's worth it, if it actually is working to sort of help anyone in any way.
In terms of moving on from that, obviously, we've got Star Wars on the horizon in a big way. We're just a couple of weeks out now from the D23 show happened, and some pretty nice reveals in there. A bit more footage from Rise of Skywalker, a bit more about the Mandalorian, and of course the worst kept secret in Lucasfilm, Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan. Obviously there's the Cassian and K2SO show as well on the horizon. So it seems like when everybody panicked that Lucasfilm were applying the brakes a little bit to Star Wars, it seems to have worked, and everything seems to be coming back full, and everybody seems really energized for the projects that are coming out now. What things are you looking forward to, in the next sort of couple of years?
Well, first of all, Rise of Skywalker, because did you ever hear Sam Witwer talk about how Force Ghost started with Qui-Gon? He didn't disappear, but then you hear his voice in episode 2, and then Yoda talks to him in episode 3, and then Obi-Wan, you see him disappear and you hear his voice in episode 4, and then you see him see-through at the start of episode 5, and less see-through at the end of episode 5, and then even less see-through in Return of the Jedi. And then when you get to Last Jedi, Yoda appears, and then actually when Yoda moves to then go sit beside Luke, he kind of disappears. He goes into the Force again, and then he reappears. So you actually see him going see-through, and then solid again, and then fully solid, and then bonks Luke in the head. So he's physical.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that confirms that this wasn't just a theory that Sam Witwer had come up with. Like, this has actually been happening. And then when you put that together with the fact that George Lucas wanted Force Ghosts to intervene with the corporeal world in Return of the Jedi originally, that when Luke was dealing with Vader, it was going to be Obi-Wan and Yoda dealing with the Emperor. And I feel like even if that specifically doesn't happen, like if I'm wanting to see something like Rey's dealing with Kylo and Luke's dealing with the Emperor. I want to see I'm most excited for in Star Wars where the Force Ghosts ultimately end up, because that has been central to the whole saga. And even in the Clone Wars, when George, ended the Clone Wars arc, Yoda says, not victory for the Clone Wars, but victory for all time. After he just learned that his new path was going to be as a Force Ghost towards that victory. Yeah. So that's what I'm excited for the most. Just that whole thing, about Force Ghosts and the Force stuff. I love Force stuff. Of course, there's lots of other stuff in the movie I'd want to see, but I talk forever. But that's the biggest. I mean, who doesn't want to see Ewan as Obi-Wan?
Hello there.
I feel like that's been a given. I feel like, how they said George Lucas had solo ideas for solo standalone movies? Yeah. I feel like Obi-Wan was one of them, and I think the movies are laced with hints as to why. Yeah. That's a whole other show, and I think it's really important. George had something to say that Obi-Wan was doing between movies, between the trilogies, but I feel like once Solo failed, because they didn't market it long enough and well enough. Yeah. But because of that, stockholders only see numbers, and I think stockholders, and George Lucas being one of them, I really feel like would have been like, okay, Iger, like, we don't want to lose money again. What's going to make money? And then, like, what about that PT stuff? Like, there's like half of fandom at least loves the PT. Like, they can't, even on a financial level, like, you cannot ignore that. So Ewan, to me, was a given once that happened, because it's like, okay, that's going to have everyone. That's going to have all PT people and all OT people. Everyone loves his Obi-Wan. I mean, I don't think there's a person in the world who doesn't.
Who doesn't love Ewan McGregor? He's a lovable guy. You can't help but love Ewan McGregor, and him as Kenobi was fantastic in the prequels. So more of that. Can't wait.
And then I think the Mandalorian trailer, I didn't think I was excited for the Mandalorian until I saw how they were pushing the boundaries artistically. Like, that is maybe the most rock and roll trailer I've ever seen. Like, when that thing rocks. The movement and the grittiness and the bold design and, like, cinematography, and the way that they're filming models like they did in the old movies to give it that realness, and just like the punchiness, the theme song, that trailer I love, because it had a visceral energy that was very rock and roll, which reminded me of early George Lucas, like American Graffiti and New Hope era Lucas, which was really like, rock and roll. That's the best way to put it.
And speaking of the Rise of Skywalker, you posted on Facebook a day or so ago some lyrics for a song that's work in progress on that very subject. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the other day, one of our friends in podcasting, this Dominic Jones from Star Wars Underworld, he's my neighbor, so we were really good friends and go out a lot. He's like, oh yeah, well, if you come play at our booth in Anaheim, you could write a new song for it. And I'm like, I can't just write a new song. Like, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna happen. This was only like a week and a half ago. I was like, I have tons of songs, So I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it'll happen. And then at Jam with my friends last week, I guess that was in the back of my mind. I just started playing this riff when we were jamming, and the next morning I woke up and I worked the riff into a new song called Rise, Double Rise, or maybe just Rise. I don't know yet. It's only half written. The verse lyrics, I said, okay, like let me just see if I can make these evoke or be inspired by what we know of what's happening with Ray from the trailers.
Yeah.
I'm a spoiler-free person, so I don't know anything other than the trailers. But then, you know, you write a new song and it might not be good, but then the chorus is sort of stuck in. It won't leave me alone. It's in my head every day, so I'm thinking it might be.
It's a good sign.
Be okay, but now I'm a little self-conscious because I'm on Skype with a good singer.
Where? Carl?
And also, I really like to always get first performances of a new idea out of the way. So that's why I sort of said maybe I could show or at least half the song, and you guys can maybe give me feedback.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I know the feeling about writing songs about new Star Wars films before they've come out. Having done 2 Christmas singles, basically 2 Star Wars movies that hadn't come out at the time, so it's and then going back to them afterwards, thinking, oh, how close was I to what happened on screen?
Luckily, I don't have a deadline, so because we're not going to do the next album. I just finally found out my small label and producer, he's interested in doing the next album. We'll probably get it done by the summer and hopefully go to Anaheim. But that was news to me last week because I've definitely as I was saying, I made him crazy over the last few albums. So that's good to know. I'm really relieved. Okay, so this just has to be ready by the summer, I think. Okay, so what I wanted to do was just debut on your show this new song that I started coming up with last Friday with my friends at a jam, and it's called Rise. So inspired by concepts that I'm seeing about the movie Rise of Skywalker from the trailers and little lines of dialogue, but also hoping it would be generally a universal kind of tune that would feel uplifting to people. And it's kind of a really energetic, loud band song, but I'm going to do just a verse and a chorus here just to debut it. And you think something's working if you're playing it by yourself, but you never know if it works until you sort of psychologically feel in real time, if other people. So you guys are my test audience right now.
Well, we'll happily play the finished products as well. So take it away, Dean.
This road won't take anyone.
that's basically where I'm at with it right now.
Hey.
God damn, I've played like, as I was saying before, 1,000 shows, some around the world, but debuting one new song that I'm not sure of on Skype with you two is making me sweat bullets.
This is where I want Ian McDermott to walk out and go, play it again.
Good.
Brilliant.
Is that a 2020 plan? Go back to Europe?
It really, so my goal has always been, just because of money, so just travel where I can go play music. And so, yeah, it looks like that 2020 is whenever we have that next album done, then I'll get out and do another tour for sure.
Always more than welcome to hit us up for contacts and gigs.
Well, I think if I'm going down to Paris again from Scotland, you'd have to do Stourbridge again.
Yeah,
so.
but obviously keep us informed how the album's going. As soon as you've got anything that we'll be more than happy to feature some of the new songs. We'll be featuring more songs from the debut album in coming shows. If people want to find you online, Din, and help fund that next album, how can people get in touch with you?
Our handle for all social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, is at F105 Music. And the website is www.f105music.com, which is updated with most of what we're doing. So tour dates, links to videos, and press articles and stuff like that. So and all the social networks from there. And then hit me up personally at Din Skysinger. It's obviously not my real last name, nor my musician name. It's just because Facebook forces me to have some last name, and I don't want to use my real name online. Yeah, please do.
Cool. Thanks for taking some time to speak with us today and give us a sneak peek of the new track. As I say, we'll keep people informed of what's going on. We hope to see you back in the UK and Europe sometime next year, or maybe even into 2021. But for now, thanks, Din, and play out now with one of the tracks from the gig we talked about in Stourbridge from 2018, September 2018. This is F105 featuring me.
So this is my first ever UK guy I know in Toronto, he's a musician named Gowan. Anyone know Gowan? Not a Gowan fan, but he did say that UK crowds are the hardest people to play for. Like, you know your fucking music, like everyone comes from here. You don't seem so bad though. My fear is subsiding. No one wants to fight me yet?
Thanks again to Din for his time and for giving us a sneak preview of a track from the next F105 album. We will obviously keep you posted, as we said in the interview, with all the developments from Din and the band, where you can see them, where you can get the album when it's released, and we'll obviously feature tracks as and when they're available to us. Great thanks there to Din. And,
Thank you very much, Din.
And we'll obviously be hopefully promoting the tour at some point in either 2020 or 2021. Who knows? If there's a Celebration Europe happening somewhere over here, he may well be over in conjunction with that. And rest assured, we'll be trying to hook up with him, let you know about performances and things like that.
And if you want to see Din near you, pester your local music venue and sing the praises of F105 and get them to come and book him and lure him over for a tour.
That's it. As we've said before, all of the artists we feature, support them as and when you can. Buy the music from Bandcamp or CDs or iTunes, wherever you download your music. If they're a gigging band, get out, see them, support live music in your local venues. It really, really does count. It's getting harder and harder for unsigned musicians to get out there and promote what they do, so every bit of support that you can offer, please do.
Here.
Next up is Complete About Turn, one of the most instantly recognisable pieces of music from the Star Wars saga soundtracks. Aside from the main fanfare and obviously the Imperial March, has got to be the Cantina theme. It's a lovely, lovely, almost jazz-inspired piece. Is it something that sticks out for you, Greg?
It totally floats my boat, this one. It's got a bit of a, I want to say, Charleston vibe to it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of some of the music that you've heard on the August Cantina DJ Rex playlists. It reminds me of some of that as well. It's fantastic, really good. I could listen to this all day.
Yeah.
Just like Friggle Dan and the Nodal Loads listen to their same song over and over.
Yes. I'd love to know who their agent was. They've got two pieces. That seems to be it.
Is that not in the book? Is that not in From a Certain Point of View? Is there not something about... There's a chapter on them. I'm sure into their agent or something.
Yeah. Yes, there is. I'm definitely
pick up that book and read it again.
Yes, well, I've got the audio book, so I'm going to have to dig that download out and re-listen to that. But yeah, there is something in there about one of the musicians gets his horns stolen, but there is something about the band. There you go.
Stay tuned to the feature show to hear this pans out.
As we go off into deep reminiscence of books we've read or listened to. But yeah, so back on track, the Cantina theme, and this is a particularly sort of funky modern retake on the Cantina band theme from Noise Tank. And you can find them on SoundCloud at Noise Tank, which is Noize. Here it is.
So that was the Noise Tank remix of the classic Cantina Band theme. Thanks once again for everyone listening to Fanfare Tracks Radio and Desert Planet Discs. We've got a number of different shows on Fanfare Tracks Radio if you want to check them out. Making Tracks with Mark and Dave Tree! We've got Cannon Fodder, Fanfare Down Under, Planet Leia. Please check out the different podcasts. Give us a subscribe. Leave us some stunning reviews on iTunes and Spotify and SoundCloud and YouTube. Subscribe to Fanfare Tracks on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Friends Reunited, Bebo, Fanfare Tracks TV on YouTube. Please give us a subscribe. New content up on Fanfare Tracks TV every Wednesday and Saturday, and if we've got anything sexy in between, that goes up as well. So please subscribe to YouTube as well. Thanks very much for the support.
Yes, thank you. Until next time, which, if our planning comes off, should be our Christmas special, shouldn't it?
It should be our Christmas special indeed, and I think hopefully have another guest interview on that one. I'll say any more than that. I will also hopefully be breaking some Darth Elvis news on the next Christmas show.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There we go. And listeners, he hasn't even told me this yet. So.
No, little tease.
So make sure you're listening.
So before we sign off, our last track of the night is Jewel of the Fates, but it's maybe not the Jewel of the Fates you're used to listening to. Is taken from an album called Baby Wars and their second album, Star Wars Lullaby Version Volume 2. You can stream this on all the usual kind of streaming sites, Spotify, Amazon, etc. You can check out what they have to offer in terms of different albums on www.tam-tammedia.com. So before we sign off, Carl, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I think you've about covered it there. Thank you again to everybody, both at Fanfare Tracks for still allowing us to do this. Keep getting in touch. We'll sign off and have a little snooze to this wonderfully delicate version of Jewel of the Fates.
Yeah, so, until next time, it's a hot dang from me.
And it's a hot dang from him. Hot dang!
Tatooine is sparsely populated. If the trace was correct, I will find them quickly, Master.